Welcome back. The next part of our requirement engineering. Here we will look into what is the different concepts of software engineering, then how to elicit the software, and what is specification, and how we will write the specification. These things we will see in this particular video. Okay, requirement engineering concepts. Totally, what is requirement engineering എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ഇവിടെ പറയുന്നത്. So what is requirement engineering stage? It is the process of defining, documenting and maintaining the requirements. So here you have to define the requirement. It has to be written in a proper format, that is called a documenting, and maintaining in the sense if any changes or something comes, that is to be taken into account, and that changes should be properly modified in the requirements as changes. It is the process of gathering, defining services provided by the system. This is another way of representing it. So that is, you have to gather it and you have to define. So this is a major stage. This is what we call as the term that is called elicitation. We call this term as elicitation. Elicitation means brings out. So you are not gathering the information, you are bringing out the requirements from the users. So there are major 4 activities that is to be carried out in this particular process. One is the elicitation process, that is bringing out. Elicitation, and we call it as analysis also. So elicitation and analysis, because elicitation and analysis is a single stage. So analyze, you have to analyze it, then only you can write the specification. So the second stage is writing the specification. So what do you mean by specification? That is writing whatever you have gathered and analyzed, the results will be represented in a form. And the third one is the verification and validation. What is this process? Verification and validation means you have to make sure that whatever your client has told is exactly you have understood, and all the requirements of the user has given in complete and in consistent form. It should be complete and consistent. So this process is called validation and verification. And finally you have to have the management. Management means whatever you have done till this time, done, and whatever changes you have accumulated, and how you have made these changes into your document and in software. So this is what your engineering, requirement engineering concept is. So it is the process of defining, documenting and maintaining the requirements, and it consisting of 4 stages or 4 steps, that is elicitation, specification, verification and validation, and management. Now we will go one by one. What is elicitation? It is the process of gathering requirements. So requirements in a gather ചെയ്യാനുള്ള process ആണ്, അതായത് bringing out. You are bringing out the requirements from the users, or from the users. There are various that discuss different ways to get knowledge about the project domain and requirements. What is a domain means? It is the area under which this particular project comes, the project comes. Every project will come in a separate area. So the area under which this project comes is the domain. So you should have to get the knowledge of the domain as well as the requirements. Then we have different sources of information, because we have to get the information, or means the gathering of requirements from different points. different sources. From customers we have to collect, we have to get it from business manuals, and from the existing software, any existing software is from that software you have to get it, different standards, different stakeholders. So whatever sources of information available to that particular project, those people has to be contacted for getting the different uh, informations, different sources, and that contact that or contact that sources and get different types of informations. That is, we call it as different viewpoints, because there are so many viewpoints we have. All these users are called different viewpoints. Okay, now elicitation does not produce formal models of requirements. So elicitation does not produce, the result will not be a formal model, because we have to model the requirements. That is what we have a section called requirement modeling. So get the informations in different forms. We have different methods to collect. The formal methods are there to collect informations, but requirements will not be in a model, so we have to make it into a model. This is the ways by which you can collect the informations or requirements. It widens the domain knowledge, because once you get into that, you will get a very depth of knowledge in that particular domain, providing input to the next stage. So because of this, we can provide different inputs to the next stage. Okay, so elicitation means it is the process of gathering the informations for requirements, or gathering the requirements from different sources of the project. So the second process is the specification, the creating formal software requirements models. So specification means you are converting whatever you have elicited and analyzed into a formal requirement model. So we have different set of models are available here: data models, class models, different types of models that we will look into later. All the requirements like functional, non-functional, and constraints are specified in totality. So we will talk in total what the whole software will have. So that means we simply say it as it in a big, we simply say it is as a big canvas. So big canvas is the total picture of the project. Then during this process, one should have more knowledge of the problem, which can again lead to the elicitation process. So what happens is, once you come into this, okay, functional requirements you have already discussed, and we are giving a set of functional requirements. Okay, 2, 3, 4, etc. So when we elicited the functional requirement of 2, it erases another set of requirements. So what you have to do, another set of needs has come up. So that means another set of goals has come up. So what we have to do, we have to go back, and again elicitation has to be conducted. So for all this process, we have to conduct the elicitation. So what happens is, you will get the more and more details of your problem. Then the models like ER diagram, data flow diagram, functional decomposition diagrams, data dictionaries, all these are the different ways of representing our requirements. These are different ways by which you can represent our, or we can represent our specification, that we will come into one by one later. The next is the validation and verification. So very simply we will say, verification is, are we building the product right? Are we making the right path for your development? And validation means, are we building the right product? That means all the requirements are satisfied as per the user's requirement. For example, okay, here different tasks that ensure that the software correctly implements a specific function. You have a specific function, okay, add two numbers. add two numbers. We have one specific information or a specific function. Whether this is doing, whether you have done it correctly or not. Then second is validation. Various tasks that ensures that the software has been built is traceable to customer requirements. ഓക്കെ, ഇത് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് നമ്മൾ പുറകിലേക്ക് പോയി നോക്കുക എന്താണ്, whether this particular process has been correctly implemented or not. Okay, if you give 4 plus 3, will you get 7? Okay, I am getting 7. Okay, if it gives 12, that means it is having some problem, so that you have to look into. So verification means, are we building the product right? Second is validation, that means are we building the right product. Needs of verification and validation. Why we require these two processes? What happens is, if requirements are not validated, errors in the required definitions will propagate into successive stages, resulting in a lot of modification and rework. So if there is any error coming into the requirement definition, then definitely you have to rewrite the whole thing without knowing, without validating or verifying it. നമ്മൾ ഇത് ചെയ്തു പോയാൽ ഫൈനൽ എത്തുമ്പോൾ ഇത് സംഭവിച്ചാൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്ത് ചെയ്യേണ്ടി വരും? വി ഹാവ് ടു ഗോ ബാക്ക് ടു ദ ഹോൾ തിങ് ആൻഡ് മോഡിഫൈ ആൻഡ് ദെൻ യു ഹാവ് ടു റീവർക്ക് ദി എൻറ്റയർ പ്രോഡക്റ്റ്. ഇതൊരു സ്മാൾ പ്രോജക്റ്റ് ആണെങ്കിൽ കുഴപ്പമില്ല, നമുക്ക് ഇത് പോയി ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. ഇഫ് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് എ ബിഗ് കോംപ്ലക്സ് പ്രോജക്റ്റ്, ദെൻ യു കനോട്ട് ഈവൻ തിങ്ക് ഓഫ് സച്ച് എ പ്രോസസ്. ദെൻ the main stages in this process include, so ഈ സ്റ്റേജിൽ നമുക്ക് മേജർ ആയിട്ട് ചില പ്രോസസ്സുകളുണ്ട്. One is the require should be consistent with all the other requirements. That is, the two requirements should not conflict with each other. For example, നമ്മുടെ ഒരു പ്രോഡക്റ്റിൽ പറയുന്നുണ്ട്, ഓക്കെ, എംപ്ലോയി ലിസ്റ്റ് വേണം എന്ന് പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. So in different places we should have different employee list. So ചിലടത്ത് we can have the employee number, name and add a gender ആയിരിക്കും വേണ്ട. ചില സ്ഥലങ്ങളിൽ നമുക്ക് വേണ്ട ഒരു എംപ്ലോയി നമ്പർ, നെയിം ആൻഡ് സാലറി ആയിരിക്കും വേണ്ടി വരിക. So it depends on your application. നമ്മുടെ ആപ്ലിക്കേഷൻ അനുസരിച്ച് that will vary. ഇനി എംപ്ലോയി നെയിം ഈ വ്യൂസ് നമുക്ക് എവിടെയൊക്കെയാണ് കാണേണ്ടത് എന്ന് തീരുമാനിക്കുന്നു. സോ ഇൻ റിക്വയർമെന്റ് 1, റിക്വയർമെന്റ് 3 we require the first one. Requirement 5 and requirement 6 requires the second one. So while you are specifying your requirements, you should be very specifically say that, okay, in this one you need the display 1, in the second one you need the display 2. It should not conflict. This is two different representations and you have to name it in two different forms. Then the requirement should be complete in every sense. See, there is one thing, the major thing is complete and consistent requirement ആണ് വേണ്ടത് എന്ന് പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. The major properties of requirement എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് completeness and consistency ആണ്. പക്ഷെ നമുക്ക് 100% കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആയിട്ടൊരു സിസ്റ്റത്തിന്റെ റിക്വയർമെന്റ് എടുക്കാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. പകരം നമ്മൾ എന്ത് പറയുന്നു, if you are taking one requirement, then take it completely. See all the aspect of that particular requirement. Then the requirement should be practically achievable. So ഇത് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നതായിരിക്കണം. You should be able to implement. ഇതിന് then one of the methods should be used like software reviews, inspection മുതലായ ടൈപ്പിലുള്ള ഏതെങ്കിലും തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു മെത്തേഡ് ഉപയോഗിച്ചിട്ട് you have to, so software reviews is one of the method for validation and verification. Okay, so that is called the requirements verification and validation. Then last one is in the stage is the requirement management process. It is the process of analyzing, documenting, prioritizing, tracking and agreeing on requirements and controlling the communication to relevant stakeholders. So ഈ കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേഷൻ ഒരു പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഭാഗമാണ്. because എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഇവിടെ ഈ കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേഷൻ ഒരു ഗ്യാപ്പ് ഉണ്ടാക്കിയാൽ ഈ കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേഷൻ ഗ്യാപ്പ് നിങ്ങളുടെ സിസ്റ്റത്തിൽ ടോട്ടലി റിഫ്ലക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യും. So it should be properly communicated between the users and the developers or the stakeholders. So management is the process of analyzing whatever things you have received and whatever you have documented, then documenting the process, then prioritize the requirements, because prioritizing is one of the major aspects, because which is to be done first. Then tracking, how long you have tracked. ഇതിനെ നമ്മൾ വേറൊരു സംഗതി കൂടി പറയും, ട്രേസബിലിറ്റി എന്ന് നമ്മൾ ഒരു പേര് പറയാറുണ്ട്. ട്രേസബിലിറ്റി മീൻസ് you have to look back. Okay, for example, നമുക്കൊരു ട്രേസബിലിറ്റി മെട്രിക്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു മെഷർ ഉണ്ട്. കാരണം ഇതിൽ എടുക്കുന്ന എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ യു വിൽ സേ യുവർ റിക്വയർമെന്റ്, ഓക്കെ, R1, then what is the description of that, R1 എന്താണ്, then in which document, requirement specification document ഏതിലാണ് അത് പറഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നത്, requirement specification section, then design section, then testing section, etc., along with who has done the requirement, done by whom എന്തൊക്കെയാണ്, who done the requirement specification, who done the design, who done the coding, and who done the testing, and which code it is available, that is the code name. ഇങ്ങനെ എല്ലാ പോസിബിലിറ്റീസും നമുക്ക് പുറകിലേക്ക് പോയി ട്രേസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഒരു മെക്കാനിസമാണ് ട്രേസബിലിറ്റി മെട്രിക്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഈ ട്രേസബിലിറ്റി മെട്രിക്സിൽ നമുക്കൊരു ഫുൾ ഡീറ്റെയിൽ നമുക്ക് കിട്ടും. Then it takes care of the changing nature of requirements. It takes care of the changing nature of requirements. അതായത് റിക്വയർമെന്റ്സ് ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ആ ചേഞ്ചസും അതുപോലുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളും എല്ലാം നമുക്കതിൽ റെക്കോർഡ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. Ensure that the requirements are properly documented in SRS. So SRS എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഒരു സോഫ്റ്റ്വെയർ റിക്വയർമെന്റ് സ്പെസിഫിക്കേഷൻ പ്രോസസ് ആണ്. സോഫ്റ്റ്വെയർ റിക്വയർമെന്റ് സ്പെസിഫിക്കേഷൻ ഡോക്യുമെന്റ് ആണ്. ആ ഡോക്യുമെന്റിൽ നമുക്ക് ഈ കാര്യങ്ങളെല്ലാം നമുക്ക് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് റെപ്രസെന്റ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കണം. ഇതിനൊരു ഫോർമാറ്റും ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ട്, that we will see later. Then when you are managing this, SRS can be modifiable to incorporate changes. So whenever you want to modify your requirements, that changes are to be put into SRS. So SRS has to be written in a form which can be modified, because it is not in particular point, in later stages also when the users are requesting for changes, that changes are also to be incorporated in your SRS. Then modifying should be in a systematic and controlled manner. So everything what you are changing, that should be in a systematic and controlled manner. So this is the total aspect of your requirements management, that analyzing, documenting, prioritizing, tracking all your requirements through proper communication between the stakeholders. And these are the, now we will come into one by one. So elicitation is the process of getting information from the users. So we have different techniques for gathering the requirements or eliciting the requirements. First is listen to the customers. Listen to the customers. എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് listen to the customers എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്? കാരണം whenever we are going for getting informations from the users, we have to first understand the customer requirements. Understand the customer requirements. Understand the customer. അതാണ് ടോട്ടലി ഉള്ളത്. കാരണം അവർക്ക് എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് പറയേണ്ടത് എന്നുള്ള ഒരു കോണ്ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ഉണ്ട്. ആ കോണ്ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ആണ് ഈ പറയുന്നത്. അവർക്ക് എന്തൊക്കെ പറയാനുണ്ട്. സോ ലിസൺ ടു ദി കസ്റ്റമേഴ്സ്. അതിന് നമ്മൾ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന മെക്കാനിസംസ് ആണ് ഒന്ന് പേഴ്സണൽ ഇന്റർവ്യൂ, ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ഫേസ് ടു ഫേസ് മീറ്റിംഗ്. face-to-face meeting. ഇത് ഫോർമൽ ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂസ് ആകാം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇൻഫോർമൽ ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂസ് ആകാം. ഫോർമൽ ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂസ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ യു ഹാവ് ടു ഫിക്സ് ദ ടൈം, യു ഹാവ് ടു ഫിക്സ് ദി അജണ്ട, അങ്ങനെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളെല്ലാം വെച്ചിട്ട് നമുക്ക് ഒരു പേഴ്സണൽ ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂ നടത്താം. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇൻഫോർമൽ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ പോകുന്ന വഴിക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെ നമുക്ക് ചോദിച്ചു പോകാൻ പറ്റും. രണ്ടാമത്തേതാണ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യനേഴ്സ്. സോ പ്രിപ്പയർ സം പ്രീഡിഫൈൻഡ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ്. പ്രീഡിഫൈൻഡ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് പ്രിപ്പയർ ചെയ്യുക. ആ പ്രീഡിഫൈൻഡ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് അവർക്ക് കൊടുക്കുക. ദെൻ യു ഗെറ്റ് ദി ആൻസേഴ്സ് ഫ്രം ദം ആൻഡ് ഫ്രം ദാറ്റ് യു derive the requirements. Then you derive the requirements. This is another form of understanding the customers. Then group discussions. As you know, you can have a group of people from the same area. Group of people from same area. അതാണ് നോക്കേണ്ടത്. Group of people from same area and get the information from them. So consolidate the opinions and then derive the requirements. So derive requirements, and finally you can have presentations. Presentations in the sense whatever has to be represented, that is to be put it into the form of a presentation. So this is the way you can go for the understanding the customer. The same thing can be applied okay, fine, let it be there, then we will come into that. Then another technique is use 5 W's and 1 H. That is who, what, where, why, when and how. So that means who is doing something, what is to be done, where it is applied, why it is required, and when it is required, and how it is done. These questions, these 5 W's are to be answered and 1 H is to be answered. Then we will get, okay, who is doing, okay, suppose you are going for one particular function. Okay, that is R1. Okay, this requirement, who is doing? Okay, X is doing it. What is to be done? That is the description of that. Then where it is done, it is done it in purchase. Why it is done? For getting purchase orders, purchase order generation, or purchase orders, generating purchase orders. Then when purchase request come, when purchase request come, we will do purchase orders. So it is to be done in purchase, and this is the description is generating purchase orders. Okay, when it is to be done is answered. So that means this is who is doing, what is done, then where it is done, why it is done, and when it is done. Now the question is how. This how gives the procedure to develop the purchase orders. This will give you the procedure to generate the purchase orders. ഇതിന് നമ്മൾ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന mechanisms ആണ്. One is review of records. Review of records means whatever is available in your organization, like receipts, notices, business process, the business process of your organization, business process, etc., or any document that is available in your organization can be used as the record. Then second is use case. Use case means who does what. Who does what. ആര് എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു എന്നുള്ള ഒരു representation ആണ് use case diagrams. Then viewpoint oriented design, oriented analysis. For a viewpoint means every user is a viewpoint. Every user is a viewpoint. So get information from them, get info from them, and then derive the requirements. Okay, then on-site observations. What is meant by on-site observations? What do you mean by on-site? എന്താണ് ഈ ഓൺ സൈറ്റ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ? Where the actual software is functioning or where this function is executing. Where this particular function is executing, that is the on-site. So on-site observation means you go there and find out what is happening there, and then understand the functions and then write the requirements for that. And in the last in that context is the last the last in that context is ethnography. Ethnography is an extension of on-site observation, because here you are just observing things. Here you are becoming a part of it. You are becoming a part of it and executing and find out. Executing and find out what is really happening there, and then you derive your requirements. Then study, the last step is study the users. How to study the users? The same processes you can use, like personal interviews you can use, questionnaires you can use cases you can use, and on-site observations can be used. On-site observation means who is the user using there. Based on that, ask questions to him and find out what he does and how the process functioning, etc. So these are the requirements elicitation methods. So this is the explanation for that. You can go to it. Listen to customers. Why? Because we have to listen to customers is simple, because number one, some of the customers are equipped with fully developed requirements. They can exactly say what their application should do. ചിലപ്പോഴ് ചില കസ്റ്റമേഴ്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അവർക്ക് ചില കസ്റ്റമേഴ്സിന് കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആയിട്ട് അവരുടെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ കൃത്യമായി അറിയാം, അവരതിനെ ഫുള്ളി ഡെവലപ്ഡ് ആയിരിക്കും. എന്നാൽ ചില ആൾക്കാർക്കുള്ള പ്രോബ്ലം എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ they just have a problem. അവരുടെ കയ്യിൽ അവർക്കൊരു പ്രോബ്ലം മാത്രമേ ഉണ്ടാവത്തുള്ളൂ. എന്തുണ്ടാവത്തില്ല? അവരെന്താണ് കൃത്യമായി അവർക്ക് വേണ്ടത് എന്ന് അവർക്ക് പറയാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. സോ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു സിറ്റുവേഷനിൽ എന്ത് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും? യു ഷുഡ് നോ ദി കസ്റ്റമർ. Then start by listening to customers. Learn as much as about the problem they are trying to address. So ഇവിടെ എന്താ പറയുന്നത്? അവരുടെ പ്രോബ്ലത്തെ കുറിച്ച് വളരെ കൃത്യമായ ഒരു അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡിങ് നമുക്ക് കിട്ടണം. എങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ നമുക്കത് സോൾവ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റത്തുള്ളൂ. Any idea may have about how the application might solve that problem. So you should not be knowing about how the problem should be solved. So you should understand first the problem, then go for the solution. Initially focus as much as possible on the problem. So when you are studying the customers, find their problems, not suggestions of solutions. You never look into the suggestions given by the customers for the solution. You look into the problem and find out how it can be solved. So if customers insist on a particular feature that seems unimportant, or if they request something that just seems strange, see, if you are seeing something strange in the requirement, or if you seems something important, you have to ask them why you want it. If they are requesting for something unusual, you ask for something why it is required. Sometimes the customers do not understand exactly what they want. That is the case when such kind of things will come. But in the case of users who have well developed requirements, then they will have a solution, or they will have an exact answer for why they require it. See, the customers know more about their business. The customers know more about their business, and they make assumptions about the facts that are common knowledge to them, but mysterious to others. In certain cases, customers know about their business, but the technical knowledge is known by the developers. So you have to have a match with these two. You have to match it. If customer requirement seems odd, dig a bit deep into that and find out what it is and why they require it. So when understanding the people, or when understanding the customers are of two types. One is a customer who has well developed requirements. Second is who is having a vague notation of what their requirement is. In either case, understand the problem, then go for solutions. In case of the second type of users who are vague about it, and if they are saying something odd, look deeper into that and find out what exactly it is, if it is or it is required in your software. Then 5 is, this is what already we have discussed. Ask who will be using the software, that is called who. Then what, figure out what the customers need the application to do. Focus on the goals as much as possible rather than customers' ideas. So whatever they are talking about, what exactly the application should do. Then find out when the application is needed. That means in the priority, there are two cases. In the priority where it should come, and when in the application this has to be evoked. Then where, find out where the application will be used. For example, നേരത്തെ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ, purchase, ഓരോ കേസുകളും എവിടെയാണ്, where it is exactly used and why. Ask why it is required. നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ, there are some features that may not be required for the users, but even then they will ask about it. So അങ്ങനെയുള്ള സിറ്റുവേഷൻസിൽ what we have to do is we have to dig deeper into it, find out why this particular user is asking for that. Then how, means focus on the goals rather than the ideas about solution. Do not completely ignore the customer's idea. So because sometimes customers can give a very simple solution for their problem which we are not even thought about. So but you do not give much importance if you have some idea that will solve your problem very easily, then you have to adopt that. If you feel that your idea is a little bit complicated, in that case you have to look for the customer's ideas. So these are the five W's and 1 H. So who is doing the process, what is to be done in that process, when this process is required, where this process will be utilized, and why this particular process is required, and how you will implement that process. Then study the users. So this is the same exactly what we have told in understanding the customers, because interview the customers to get more informations. Interview the customers to get more informations. Then won't tell everything they do or need to do. അവരെല്ലാം പറയില്ല, they won't tell everything what they do. They often take granted details that any customer trivial, but that may be important to the development team. അവർ ചില കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറയണമെന്നില്ല, പക്ഷെ ആ കാര്യങ്ങൾ എന്തായിരിക്കും, ഒരു ഡെവലപ്മെന്റ് ടീമിനെ സംബന്ധിച്ച് വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയിരിക്കും. സോ യു ഹാവ് ടു dig into details and find out every minute part of it, but you never say everything. By studying users as they work, this is the process called on-site observation. So when we go for on-site observation, so this is the on-site on-site observation, that is called by studying users as they work. So the way they work you learn about, and how they currently do it, and can learn more about what they need. So if they are doing some work, how they are doing it, find out, and what they need to do, what they want the modification, or how they want to do it. Number one, find out how they do it currently, and find out what they want in addition. First is understand what they want to develop. In this, studying the users, pay attention to how they do things. So that is more important. So this is the difference between listen to customers and study users. Listen to customers, listen to whatever they want. In study users, you have to pay attention how they do things. Okay, so this is the major difference. The next is how to refine the requirements. How can we refine the requirements? Because you are getting a lot of things, a lot of write-ups, a lot of things we are getting. So we have to refine these things, and in precise we have to write. So that is called refining the users. After talking with the customers and users, watched the users and have a good understanding about the users current operation. That is the major thing. You should know about the current operations and needs. So first you understand the current operations and needs. Next, need to use what have learned to develop ideas for solving the user's problems. So first you understand the problems, then you find ideas for solving the problem. Next is to solving the problem. Then if you need to refine the goals into approaches. So they are telling some business things, you have to convert it into an approach. That means we have to convert it into a model or into a requirement. Then high level, the requirement seems fine, nice and flexible. At the high level, everything looks fine, nice and flexible. So it allows to explore more options for achieving the goal. So here you are getting the goal. Then in your development, you have to find out how it is implemented or how it is achieved. The problem is some of the goals may not be achievable. That's why we have first told that the requirements should be achievable. Then it need to turn goals into something that can actually build. So this goal to requirement conversion is required. So goal is in pure natural language and requirements also in natural language, but requirements should be very specifically say, okay, 1 this is to be done, 2 this is to be done, 3 this is to be done, like that. You have to convert it into executable or achievable forms. So these approaches, so different approaches are there to convert these goals into requirement. So we have a set of goals, and these goals are to be converted into requirements. We are using 3 different methods. That is called copying the existing system, then clairvoyance, and brainstorm method, or Osborne method. So these 3 methods we will use for the process. Existing system means building a system to replace an existing system or manual system. Then users will expect the behaviors of the existing system are the requirements for the new one. So if you are converting an existing system, all the behaviors of the existing system should be converted into, or it should be available in the new one. Okay. Now, if the users currently fill out a long paper form, then new system has a computerized form that looks similar. അപ്പം നമ്മൾ ഒരു മാനുവൽ ഫോമിൽ ഒരു പേപ്പർ ഫോം ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ they will expect the same kind of problems in the, or same kind of form in the computer system, possibly with some tabs, scrolled windows and other format changes to make from the form look a bit better on a computer. So you should get a better look on the computer screen. So existing system till what they are specifying is all the functions of the existing system should be available in your new system. Then the major advantages, it is straightforward, no discussion, no explanation required. Focus on software design issues, focusing on design, because everything that is to be present in the existing system should be available. But then make it more likely that the requirements can actually be satisfied, because at least to the extent the current system works. So whatever is available in the current system should be available in the new system. Then provides an unambiguous example of what you need to do. എന്താണ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടതെന്ന് ഒരു സംശയത്തിനിടയില്ലാത്ത വിധം you will be getting the informations, because everything is working properly right now in a different form. It's a time saver, because there is nothing to be spent more on requirements are already available. It is functioning in a different form. As long as the development team and the customers all agree with the part of the existing system that will be included in the new one. So you have a very specific requirements in the existing systems that has to be copied to the new system. Then disadvantages, not building a new version of an existing system unless it makes some changes. So if you are exactly copying something from the old to new, then there is nothing new in that. Maybe incompatible with the original system. May also be incompatible with the original systemവുമായിട്ട് ഇൻകോമ്പാറ്റബിൾ ആയിട്ട് വരാനുള്ള സാധ്യതയുണ്ട്. Then the users are often reluctant to give even the tiniest features in an existing, because whatever is available that should be present in the new system. They will not allow you to exclude anything that is available in the existing system. That not leading to new innovations. പുതിയ innovations ഒന്നും ഇതിലുണ്ടാവത്തില്ല. കാരണം എന്താണ്? That might be better than the old ones. പുതിയതായിട്ടൊന്നും ഉണ്ടാവത്തില്ല, കാരണം പഴയതിനെ നമ്മൾ എന്ത് ചെയ്യണം? പഴയതിനെ നമ്മൾ അതുപോലെ തന്നെ കോപ്പി ചെയ്യുന്ന മെക്കാനിസം ആയതുകൊണ്ട്. Then clairvoyance. Then someone sits down and starts churning out the design, workflow models, login, everything. എല്ലാം ഒരാളിരുന്ന് എഴുതി. Some people are sitting down. ഒരാളിരുന്ന് ഇതെല്ലാം എഴുതുകയാണ്. All these things will be written. It is actually quite effective in practice. Assume the people writing the requirements understand the customer's needs, who have the previous experience, often produce a good result. So ഇത് എഴുതുമ്പോൾ ആരാവണം? വളരെ എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ്ഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരാളാണെങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ ഇത് നടക്കത്തുള്ളൂ. So team leads are chose to their experience and technical expertise so that the computer can do and they can design a system that works. So experience ഉള്ള ഒരാള്, clairvoyance എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇതാണ്, എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് ഉള്ള ഒരാള് ഏറ്റവും നല്ല പ്രാക്ടീസിനെ റൈറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് ഇംപ്ലിമെന്റ് ചെയ്യും. This technique is particularly effective if the project has previously built on a similar system or previously built a similar system. ഇത് പഴയ ഇതുപോലുള്ള പ്രീവിയസ് സിസ്റ്റംസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ ഇത് വളരെ എഫക്റ്റീവ് ആയിട്ട് വരത്തുള്ളൂ. It also greatly increases the chances that the team will anticipate problems and enhance them easily as development continues. ഇതൊരു വലിയ അഡ്വാൻറ്റേജ് ആണ്, because we can foresee the problems that may arise and you can write the solutions. You can find out the solutions in advance and development will continue without any hindrance. In fact, it is a best practice, that it is one of the best practices, but not leading to new innovative solutions that might be better than the old ones, because this is written on experience. No, so definitely it will be having an analogy to the old one. So you will try to take solutions from the old. Also, writing manuals for the project becomes easier. So this can be considered as a manual also, because manual means whenever a new system is designed, you write a manual and that manual will be utilized. The last method is the brainstorming method. It is also called Osborne method because it was developed by Alex Osborne. He observed that it is easier to tone down a wild idea than to think up a new one. ഒരു വൈൽഡ് ഐഡിയയെ ടോൺ ഡൗൺ ചെയ്യുന്നതാണ് ഇതിലെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയൊരു പ്രത്യേകത. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇതൊരു പുതിയ തിങ്ക് ഓഫ് എ ന്യൂ വൺ, പുതിയതിനെ കുറിച്ച് ആലോചിക്കുന്നതിനേക്കാൾ കൂടുതൽ യു ഗെറ്റ് വൈൽഡ് ഐഡിയാസ്. The real point of action is the method is to gather as many ideas as possible, get so many ideas, not worrying about their quality or practicality, without thinking of whether it is achievable or not, whether it is executable or not, does it have a quality. Don't think about any of these things. Just get the ideas, then assemble a large list of possible ideas. From that, get all the list of possible ideas, examine them more closely to see which deserves further work. So this is a method by which you completely, for a big group, you give an idea, then get back the ideas and then assimilate on that, then find out which one is better to execute. This allow as many approaches as possible and should try to get diverse group of participants. So different types of participants are to be utilized, and from there get different set of informations. To keep ideas flowing, don't judge or critique any of the ideas. So just flow the ideas. Do not criticize anybody who gave any kind of ideas. Brainstorming is useful anytime to find creative solutions to complex problems. So this is the major advantage of it. That is, you will get creative solutions for complex problems. Very complex problems, you will get ideas for creative solutions. This is the best method which we normally adopt. So the major rules: focus on quality, quantity, use no quality, quantity, how many, really how much idea you are getting and how you are utilizing it is the second thing. Creative ideas, how much of creative ideas is coming. It is not the quality, it is only the quantity. Withhold criticism, do not criticize. Whoever says anything, you just take it. Encourage unusual ideas. ചിലപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്ന തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു ഐഡിയ ആയിരിക്കില്ല നമുക്ക് വരിക. Encourage it. Combine and improve ideas. If you are getting some ideas from outside or from different people, your different ideas are coming, combine it. Then can pick most promising ideas to develop further. ഇതിൽ നിന്ന് ഏറ്റവും പ്രോമിസിംഗ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഐഡിയാസ് എടുക്കുക, അതിൽ ഡെവലപ്മെന്റ് നടത്തുക. ഇത് സ്പെസിഫിക് കേസുകളിലേക്ക് അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യാം. കാരണം വെനെവർ യു ആർ ഹാവിങ് എ സ്പെസിഫിക് കേസ്, ആ സ്പെസിഫിക് കേസിലേക്ക് നമ്മൾ കൊണ്ടുവരിക. ബ്രെയിൻ സ്റ്റോമിങ് ആ സെഷനിൽ മാത്രം നടത്തുക. ഈ എൻകറേജ് അൺയൂഷ്വൽ ഐഡിയാസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നതിനൊരു നല്ല ഒരു എക്സാമ്പിൾ ഉണ്ട്. കാരണം 2007 ഞാൻ പൂനെയിലൊരു FDP അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ അതിലൊരു ലൈബ്രറി മാനേജ്മെന്റ് സിസ്റ്റത്തിന്റെ റിക്വയർമെന്റ്സ് എഴുതി കൊടുക്കാൻ പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ അതിൽ ഇവിടുന്ന് അഹമ്മദാബാദിൽ നിന്നോ മറ്റോ വന്ന ഒരാൾ എഴുതി, ഒരു മെക്കാനിക്കൽ ഹാൻഡ് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ ബുക്കിൻ്റെ അക്സഷൻ നമ്പർ കൊടുക്കും. അക്സഷൻ നമ്പർ കൊടുത്താൽ ഒരു മെക്കാനിക്കൽ ഹാൻഡ് പോയിട്ട് ഈ സംഗതി എന്ത് ചെയ്യണം, ബുക്ക് പിക്ക് ചെയ്ത് കൊണ്ടുവരണം എന്ന് അത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ എംപ്ലോയി നമ്പർ കൊടുക്കുമ്പോൾ ആ ബുക്ക് എനിക്ക് ഇഷ്യൂ ചെയ്തതായിട്ട് വരണം എന്നുള്ള ഒരു ഐഡിയ പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നു. അത് നമുക്ക് നോക്കുമ്പോൾ എന്താണ്, ഒരു വൈൽഡ് ഐഡിയ ആയിട്ട് തോന്നും. 2007 അന്ന് ടെക്നിക്സ് ഒന്നുമില്ല. പിന്നെ വായിച്ച് കണ്ടത് ഖരഗ്പൂർ IIT ഇതിൻ്റെ ഒരു പ്രോട്ടോടൈപ്പ് ഉണ്ടാക്കി എന്നാണ്. സോ തിങ്ക് ഓഫ് ദി പവർ ഓഫ് അൺയൂഷ്വൽ ഐഡിയ. തന്നെ കുറെ ടെക്നിക്സുകളൂടെ ഉണ്ട്, ലൈക്ക് പോപ്കോൺ, സബ് ഗ്രൂപ്പ്സ്, ദെൻ സ്റ്റിക്കി നോട്ട്സ്. ഈ സ്റ്റിക്കി നോട്ട്സ് ഒക്കെ നമ്മൾ സാധാരണ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നതാണ്. ദെൻ ഐഡിയ പാസിങ്, ഓരോരുത്തരുടെ ഇടയിൽ ഐഡിയ പാസ് ചെയ്യുക. ദെൻ സർക്കുലേഷൻ ലിസ്റ്റ്, ദെൻ റൂൾ ബ്രേക്കിംഗ്, ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ. ചില പാർട്ടിസിപ്പൻസിന് എന്താ പറയുക, അവർക്ക് നേരിട്ട് സംസാരിക്കാനുള്ള ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുണ്ടാവും. അപ്പോൾ അവരെ മാത്രമായിട്ടൊരു ഗ്രൂപ്പിൽ സംസാരിക്കാനുള്ള ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുണ്ടാവും. അങ്ങനെ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അവരെ മാത്രം എടുത്തിട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു മെക്കാനിസം. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ചില അഡീഷണൽ മെത്തേഡ്സ് കൂടെയുണ്ട്. വലിയ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് ഇല്ല, നമ്മൾ വെറുതെ ഒന്ന് അറിയാൻ വേണ്ടി പറഞ്ഞു എന്നുള്ളതേ ഉള്ളൂ. ഇത് മെത്തേഡാണ്. ഇത് വലിയ സിഗ്നിഫിക്കൻസ് ഇല്ല, എന്നാലും എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഒരു കാര്യം എന്നറിയാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് മാത്രം ഞാൻ എഴുതിയിരുന്നുള്ളതേ ഉള്ളൂ. വർക്ക് ഇൻ എ കംഫർട്ടബിൾ റൂം, provide food and drink, start recapping the user's current process, then use a clock to keep session short. അപ്പോൾ ചെറിയ സെഷൻസ് ആയിട്ടാണ് നമ്മളിത് നടത്തുന്നത്. allow group attention to wander a bit. അവരുടെ ഇതിന് വിടുക. നമ്മുടെ ക്ലാസ്സിൽ ഇരിക്കുന്ന പോലെ ഇരിക്കണമെന്നില്ല, ജോക്സ് ഒക്കെ പറയാൻ പറ്റും. ദെൻ ഇടയ്ക്കിടയ്ക്ക് നിങ്ങൾ എവിടെയെങ്കിലും സ്റ്റക്കായി പോയിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ റീസ്റ്റേറ്റ് ദ പ്രോബ്ലം. Then I'll allow silent periods so that people have time to think ചെയ്യാനുള്ള സമയം കൊടുക്കുക. റിവേഴ്സ് ദ പ്രോബ്ലം. ചിലപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾ സ്ട്രെയിറ്റ് ആയിട്ട് പ്രോബ്ലം കൊടുക്കാതെ അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു നെഗറ്റീവ് മാർക്കറ്റിംഗ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന പോലെ തിരിച്ചൊരു കാര്യം പറയാം. Write ideas in a slightly ambiguous ways and let people give their interpretations. ഇപ്പോൾ കുഴച്ച് മറിച്ച് സംഗതികൾ കൊടുത്തിട്ട് അവരുടെ കയ്യിൽ നിന്ന് ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ എടുക്കുക. At that, summarize these ideas and finally summarize the ideas and get what we require. The next is the requirement specification. Requirement specification is a collection of set of requirements that are to be imposed on design and verification of the product. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഇതുവരെ ചെയ്ത കാര്യങ്ങളെ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ ഈ കളക്ട് ചെയ്ത് എല്ലാം ചെയ്ത കാര്യങ്ങളെ നമുക്ക് എന്ത് ചെയ്യണം, ഡിസൈൻ ആൻഡ് വെരിഫിക്കേഷൻ ഓഫ് ദി പ്രോഡക്റ്റ്. ഡിസൈൻ ആൻഡ് വെരിഫിക്കേഷൻ ഓഫ് ദി പ്രോഡക്റ്റിന് ഉപയോഗിക്കത്തക്ക രീതിയിൽ ദാറ്റ് ഹാസ് ടു ബി ഫോർമുലേറ്റഡ്. The specification also contains other related information for design, verification and maintenance of the product. So the specification is a official document. Specification is an official document which used till the end of the product. Till the end of product. ആ പ്രോഡക്റ്റ് ലൈഫ് സൈക്കിളിലുള്ള സമയം വരെ നമ്മൾ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സാധനമാണ് സ്പെസിഫിക്കേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. It should state what the various stakeholders of the software needs in terms of what are the different stakeholders. ഓരോ സ്റ്റേക്ക്ഹോൾഡേഴ്സിനും വേണ്ടുന്ന ഫീച്ചേഴ്സ് എന്താണ്, what are the functions, what is the performance, what are the constraints and quality, what is the quality of the system written in terms of what the product must do or qualities that must have. So everything you have to state it in the requirement. These stakeholders including customers, users, maintenance staff, technical support and others who have knowledge to define these requirements. Or anybody who uses this system, they have to be included in the requirements. Sometimes the stakeholders state their requirements in terms of design or often unintentionally. വെറുതെ ചില ആൾക്കാർ പറയും, ചിലർ ഡിസൈൻ ഫോമിൽ പറയും. എന്തായാലും നമുക്ക് എന്ത് വേണം, all these things are to be recorded in a proper manner in the specification. ഇതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ this becomes a legal document. ഇതൊരു ഒഫീഷ്യൽ ഡോക്യുമെന്റുമാണ്, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഇതൊരു ലീഗൽ ഡോക്യുമെന്റുമാണ്. എന്തെങ്കിലും ലീഗൽ ഡിസ്പ്യൂട്ട്സ് വന്നാൽ അത് ഇതിലേക്കാണ് വരിക. Then requirement specification document. നമ്മൾ റിക്വയർമെന്റ് എഴുതുന്ന ഒരു ഡോക്യുമെന്റ് ആണ് SRS എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. So SRS defines the software requirement specification. എന്തൊക്കെ നിങ്ങൾ പറയാൻ ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ അതെല്ലാം ഇവിടെ പറയും. It also describes the functionality the product needs to fulfill to the stakeholders needs. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മളുടെ എന്തെല്ലാം കാര്യങ്ങൾ ലീഗലി ആയാലും ടെക്നിക്കലി ആയാലും എന്തൊക്കെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ വേണോ all these things will be described in the SRS. The SRS include a purpose, an overall description and specific requirements. So these three things it should be compulsory mandatory for your SRS. This is mandatory. There is mandatory. There is some other things are also available that we will discuss in the next screen. It is the so why use of an document, use of an SRS document. So it is the basis for the entire project. No explanation required. It is used to provide critical information on to multiple teams. That is, it is used for communication between groups or stakeholders or anybody. To ensure requirements are fulfilled, that is for validation and verification. It is used for validation and verification. Then help to make decision about the product's life cycle. It says, okay, what are the features, when this feature has to come, when this feature has to go out. Minimize overall development time and cost, because if everything is written very clearly, then development will become easy. So this is the format of SRS. Before that, I should say the characteristics of SRS. What are the different characteristics of SRS? SRS should be complete and consistent. Consistent. Then the modification like logical and hierarchical must be allowed in SRS, because we already told that it should allow modification. Then the requirement should be easily implemented, that is achievable എന്ന് നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞു, achievable ആയിരിക്കണം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. Each requirement should be uniquely identified. Everything should be uniquely identified. അതുകൊണ്ടാണല്ലോ ഞാൻ എപ്പോഴും പറയുമ്പോൾ R1 R2 എന്നിങ്ങനെ പറയുന്നത്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു വേഗമായിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞാൽ പോലെ. Then the statement in SRS must be unambiguous, means it should be having only one meaning. So everyone should get the same meaning for one statement. All the requirements must be valid for the specified project. ആ particular projectന് valid ആയിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ മാത്രമായിരിക്കണം അതിൽ വരേണ്ടത്. Then how to write an SRS? Then first you create an outline. This outline can be given from some templates. Then start with the purpose. Why we are developing this software? Like, start with the purpose. Give an idea of what you will build. Then what are the specific requirements of that product, and finally get the approval of the SRS. So this is the template of this is the sample template. This is a sample template of the SRS, which should says it's an introduction. It should say purpose. It should have the purpose. Then intent, who are the intended audience, intended use, the scope of it, what are the definitions and other things you are using it. Then the overall description of the system, what are the functional user needs, എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് യൂസർ പറഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നത്, what are the assumptions you have to take, and what are the dependencies there. And then comes the features and requirements. You have to say functional requirement, then external requirements, external interface if anything is to be specified, the system actual features, then non-functional requirements, like that. This is a standard format. You can make changes accordingly when you write the SRS based on your project. This is the software requirement engineering process. So if you have any doubt, you please contact me on Classroom or in my WhatsApp or my phone. Okay, thank you. So you just go and read it and find out what is inside.